Today, we're going to compare 6 compact strollers from Cybex that may be useful for travel or to complement an urban or car-based lifestyle. So let's jump straight into it then with the Coya, Cybex's only platinum line ultra compact, whose main positives are a full flat, newborn acceptable recline, a mesh window in the seat back that can be handy for warmer climates, the fact that it folds down to within the IATA's guidelines for cabin luggage, that it's relatively sturdy in terms of its overall build, and that it has a shoulder strap. On the negative side, the Coya's upright position is a bit too sloped in my opinion, and, despite being sturdy, the chassis is still a bit loose in its connection points, which can be a little unpleasant depending on the terrain underfoot. It's also somewhat unstable feeling due to the narrowness of the rear frame. The fold has more steps and takes more effort than with a lot of other ultra compacts these days, and the shopping basket is a bit hard to access. That being said, if you're looking to spend a little extra on an ultra compact, where the Coya clocks in at around $600, of all the strollers we'll be covering today, it's both the sturdiest in terms of build quality and also the most premium feeling when it comes to the textiles and finer details. With regards to ideal use, the Coya can be useful for air travel, where its combined folded dimensions are even within the stricter 115 centimeters all-round requirements of some airlines, and its sturdy build also makes it good as your main stroller if you live in a very smooth environment. The model's poor shock absorption does make it unsuitable for rougher conditions though, and the more complicated fold also makes it not quite as good as some of the other models in this video if you'll regularly be loading it in and out of the trunk. Next up is the Orfeo, a more streamlined model that's a bit cheaper than the Coya, which also has a full flat recline with its seat, as well as a more upright position. The Orfeo similarly folds down to cabin luggage size, is easier to fold, and also has a shoulder strap. It's less loose in its connection points, at least right out of the box, but is weaker overall than the Coya, and has a higher chance of getting more rickety in the long run. Additional negatives with the model are that it shares the Coya's problem of a somewhat difficult to access shopping basket. The textiles and harness feel a lot cheaper, the canopy is not extendable and is a bit too short in my opinion, and the brake system is more awkward to use and also more likely to develop problems down the line due to its more complicated design. The Orfeo clocks in at a somewhat more reasonable $400 and can similarly be a good choice for travel, while its easier fold makes it a superior option for heavily car-based lifestyles in my opinion. Though, that noted, the weaker build makes it not quite as good for getting around all day on foot if you're looking to get one of these as your primary stroller. Moving on, we get to the Libelle, a somewhat souped-up version of the GB Pocket that Cybex's parent company sells through another brand. The Libelle's unique feature is that its folded dimensions are significantly smaller than those of other ultra compacts, which helps with finicky airlines who have cabin luggage requirements below the IATA's guidelines, and also makes the model useful for some niche travel plans where luggage size is at the utmost premium. The main trade-offs for the smaller folded size are, firstly, that there are more hinged points than average on the chassis, creating a feeling of looseness and fragility, and making it definitely the weakest of the models in this video. Secondly, that extra features, such as proper suspension, have been left out of the design, making it really rough to push outside of smooth, preferably indoor environments. And lastly, that the seat is pretty bare bones, with only the slightest recline and a canopy that's a bit too short, as with the Orfeo. All that being said, the Libelle only costs around $300, which is not too bad for a model that's a bit more of a special purpose piece of gear. In my opinion, the Libelle is only useful as a travel model, as the complex fold makes it more fiddly than the other choices here for car-based lifestyles, and the model's fragile structure and lack of terrain versatility makes it too weak as your primary stroller for getting around on foot. Pushing forwards, we get to the Cybex Eezy Twist Plus 2, the only model here with a reversible seat. Positives with the Twist, in addition to that reversible seat, include a nicely upright position, a full flat recline, wheels that are a lot larger than most of the other models in this video, and sufficiently lightweight and small folded dimensions that, even though it's too large to pass as cabin luggage, it's often still possible to gate check the Twist with a lot of airlines. The chief negative with the Twist is that it's highly complex mechanically, with a ton of hinges and locking points and lots of tiny internal components, both in the seat frame and chassis, which may break or fall out of alignment as the model loosens up over time. The Twist Plus 2 has a base price of around $600, which is a bit high for the model's weaknesses in my opinion. Though that being said, if a reversible seat is a must for you, then it can work okay for travel, keeping in the trunk, or even as your daily driver, provided that you live somewhere smoother. Moving on, we get to the Agis, which is built purposefully minimalistic, almost like a re-envisioning of the umbrella stroller on an ultra-compact chassis. The main positives with the Agis are that it has nicely accessible storage, the chassis feels intelligently designed towards simplicity and has good cross support, and the model's spring-loaded support struts provide better shock absorption than most other ultra-compacts. On the negative side, like the Libelle, its seat is also very bare bones, where it has the advantage of a front frame mounted footrest, but lacks a leg rest. Similarly, only has two positions, with the second providing just the slightest of reclines, and where it has bigger negatives in that the shoulder straps have to be rethreaded to change elevation, that, like several of our models today, the canopy is not extendable, and also in that it has no newborn capability whatsoever, while even the Libelle has car seat adapters. In addition, I'd also note that the Agis takes two hands to fold and doesn't fold down directly into a standing position, that the suspension is actually a bit too much for the model, apt to loosen a few points on the handle arms quite a bit with its bounciness, and that the front wheels sit somewhat loose and can be noisy over uneven pavement. All that being said, at $250, it isn't too expensive, and for parents who like the model's minimalism and are just looking for an easy-to-use stroller for travel, keeping in the trunk, or even for daily use in an urban environment, it will provide a degree of durability as a result of its simple design, as well as terrain versatility not found with several of the other strollers in this video. And last up today then is the Beezy, a larger sized model like the Twist, but which only has a forwards facing seat, as well as much simpler design that makes it more durable. The main positives of the Beezy are that it feels a bit more solid than the rest of the strollers in this video, with the exception of the Coya. That it has an easy one-handed fold, has larger sized wheels, and more or less equally as noticeable suspension as the Agis, has a decently accessible shopping basket, and that it has a newborn acceptable recline as it comes stock. On the negative side, like the Twist, it unfortunately doesn't fold down to cabin luggage limits, even though it will similarly be acceptable for gate checking with a lot of airlines, and it also has some negatives when it comes to the seat, in an upright position that's a bit too sloped, a pull strap that's tough on the fingers to pull, a footrest that's a little too far back beneath the baseboard, which may make leg positioning a little uncomfortable for older toddlers, and a canopy that's not extendable. At around $370, the Beezy is the best model here in my opinion for value relative to cost, and it's also the best choice if you're looking at getting one of these as your main stroller, as a result of its somewhat sturdier build and terrain versatility. Its easy fold can also make it decent for car-based lifestyles, though the larger folded size makes it a little harder to travel with than the true ultra-compact choices here. In any case, we hope you found this video interesting, and if you did, please subscribe, as this sort of support helps us to continue making videos in the future. If you'd like to know more about any of these models, we have standalone reviews for all of them, and links have been added in the description. In addition, if you're currently shopping for a stroller, we have a buyer's guide on our Patreon page which lists a wide range of models that we recommend, with a lot of technical and lifestyle related information. You can find it by following the link in the description as well. Thank you.